Hello, and welcome to the Healthy Homes Payment Request webinar. This webinar is designed for manufactured housing communities using ARPA funds awarded through DEC's Healthy Homes program and is being presented to you by our Healthy Homes Accessible Assistance Specialists, Rosalie Sharp, Caroline Foley, and Bridget Phillips. If you have questions after watching this webinar, please email your technical project manager for your Healthy Homes grant. Today's training will cover logging into ANR Online and finding the Grants and Contract Invoices form, filling out the form, Form 430 review, review of invoices and acceptable expenses, and eligibility of using funds. Which deliverables need to be submitted first in order to submit an invoice? First, let's talk about when it's appropriate to submit a payment request. You should do this when you have received an invoice from a contractor for your project and you are up to date on all deliverables in the milestone and deliverable schedule of your agreement with the state of Vermont. Payment requests will not be approved until deliverables that are due are received. To get started with the submission, we will go to ANR Online, which is the website that we use to process payment requests. First, you will go onto ANR Online and register for an account if you've never used it before, or log in if you have. If this is your first time using ANR Online, create an account. This should be done by the person who will be regularly submitting payment requests on behalf of their MHC. If you have used ANR Online before, sign in with your username and password. If you are registering for a new account, you'll get a confirmation code sent to the email you used to register. Retrieve the confirmation code from your email and put it back in on ANR Online. You will then be able to sign in with your new name and password. Make sure to save these for future use. To find the form that you will use to submit your invoices for payment as well as your Form 430, go to the Form Finder tool at the top bar of your ANR Online dashboard. Type in Grant or Grant and Contract Invoices into the search bar and select the result for Grant and Contract Invoices. This will take you to the Grant and Contract Invoices Begin Form Entry page. Type in your grant contract number in the field below. You can find this number on the first page of your MHC Healthy Homes Agreement or in the upper right-hand corner on each subsequent page of the agreement. This page is called the Grant Contract Details page. The first part of this page will have pre-filled information about your grant based on the number you entered on the previous page. The total award amount listed here will include contingency funding, which you need to apply to use. Email your technical project manager for more information about applying for contingency funding. In our example here, the remaining balance is the same as the total because this is the first payment request being submitted by this MHC. In future submissions, that number will reflect your previously approved payment request. Next, scroll down and you will see which fields need to be filled out on this page. This is where you will enter the amount of the invoice being submitted. This number should match the total on the invoice or invoices being submitted and the total amount requested on the Form 430. If you are submitting multiple invoices in one payment request, then this would be the sum of those invoices. The contract invoice or grant payment number is the payment request number. If this is your first payment request, it would be 1. If this was the second, it would be 2, etc. This number should match the number on the top of Form 430 where it says payment number. Scroll down and add comments that would be useful for review of the payment request, if any. Carefully read the instructions for associating invoices with milestones in the Milestones Deliverable table below. If you are submitting an invoice that is related to a milestone in a certain category, select Yes for Submit Invoice and leave the other categories as No in the Milestone Deliverables table. In our example, the invoice is for the digging of test pits, conducting a land survey, and performing a site assessment, which fall under the technical assistance and permitting phase of the agreement that we are working in. The amount for this invoice will be listed under technical assistance and permitting phase, and we should check Yes to submit an invoice for this category on this portion of the ANR Online form. Write the invoice amount next to those milestones you are assigning invoices to for payment. Most of the time, your invoices will be for things that are included in the milestone table above, so answer no to the question, are you submitting an invoice for something that isn't included in the milestones table above? If you select yes to the question, "Are you submitting an invoice for something that isn't included in the milestones table above?" you will be prompted to explain the work covered by an invoice that does not match one of the phases described in the milestones table. If you're submitting an invoice for something that's not included in the milestone table, please reach out to your TPM to discuss this before filling out this form and submitting the payment request. Carefully review your entries before clicking the next section, Attachments button. Make sure the numbers you entered match what is on your Form 430 and what is on your invoice. In this section, you will attach your completed Form 430 and all invoices for this payment request. These files must be in PDF format. Include a comment if you think it will be helpful for the reviewer. Scrolling further down in the Attachments section, you will see a place to submit relevant deliverable items if necessary. You do not need to attach deliverables here if you've already submitted them via email. You will now have the opportunity to review your entire form before submitting. If you see anything that needs to be edited, you can go back to the relevant section and make changes. Once you are satisfied with your form entry, you can hit Certify and Submit at the bottom of the page. You may also create a printable version of the form for your records if desired. Carefully read this section and then click the Submit Form button to finalize your submission. Or click Finish later to save your progress and finish reviewing and certifying the form at a later time.
Once you have submitted your payment request, the Technical Project Manager, or TPM, will review it for accuracy and completeness. The amount requested on the Form 430 should match both ANR Online and the total of all invoices submitted with that payment request. The math must add up correctly for all the columns and rows. If this is not your first payment request, be sure to fill out the amount previously invoiced. The payment number on your Form 430 should match the contract invoice or grant payment number that you typed into ANR Online. Additionally, work must be billed to the appropriate milestone in your budget table, such as technical assistance and permitting, shown here. If you have any questions about which budget category to bill to, reach out to your technical project manager. The Form 430 should be signed by the MHC owner, a member of the owning entity, such as a member of a nonprofit organization, or by someone who has been contractually hired to assist the MHC. On the invoice, the Technical Project Manager will again confirm that the amount matches what is in ANR Online and the Form 430. Invoices should be addressed to the MHC owner. For all payments to subcontractors, such as engineers and construction firms, the Healthy Homes program must have an approved subcontract on file before issuing payment for work that subcontractor performed. And lastly, work should be itemized and all expenses must be eligible.
You may find yourself wondering throughout your project whether certain expenses are eligible to be reimbursed by your Healthy Homes Award or not. Something that can be paid for using your Healthy Homes Award is referred to as an eligible expense. Usually, if it is essential to complete the water infrastructure improvement that you have received the funding for, it can be paid for by your award. However, there are some exceptions and other guidance that the Healthy Homes team can offer to help you determine whether an expense is eligible or not. First off, all expenses must be for work that occurred during the allowable period of your award. You can find the pre-award cost date listed in the payment provision section of your funding agreement. There is an example screenshot of what that section would look like in your funding agreement on this slide. Again, it would be in the payment provision section and the subtitle would be Other Provisions.
Figuring out whether something is an eligible expense for your project can be complicated. So if you're unsure, please reach out to your technical project manager and ask. We want to fund as much of your project as we can, and since each project is unique, we often need to look at specific examples of project costs to determine if the program can pay for them. So if you're unsure, please reach out. On the next couple slides, we share some common examples of eligible expenses. So listed here, you'll see some examples of technical assistance and permitting phase expenses. So if you have technical assistance and permitting phase funding in your award, you may want to bill for engineering costs to design the project, engineering costs to submit permit applications or permit fees.
And if you have construction phase funding through your Healthy Homes Agreement, you may want to bill for work that the construction contractor completed on the project. This is the most common construction phase expense. Just know that the work must clearly support the project as it is outlined in your funding agreement with the state. You can also bill for work that the engineering firm completed that directly supports construction activities, such as construction management or site visits that occurred during construction.
We're also going to go over some examples of expenses that are not eligible for Healthy Homes funding. First off, any ongoing maintenance costs for the water infrastructure that was installed are not eligible. So for example, regular maintenance on a wastewater system might include pumping out the tanks every few years. This cannot be covered by your award. However, if replacing the tanks that are failing is part of your award, those one-time costs would most likely be eligible. Next, as we mentioned on an earlier slide, you want to make sure you're aware of the pre-award cost date, which you can find in the payment provision section of your funding agreement. Any work that happened before that date is not eligible for funding through your Healthy Homes Award. And finally, the last example here is that costs related to infrastructure work that was not awarded to your community is not eligible. So for example, if the community was awarded money to improve the wastewater system and they submit a payment request to pay for a drinking water system improvement, that would most likely be denied because they were not awarded funding for their drinking water system, only the wastewater.
Thank you for taking the time with us today to learn more about the program. If you have any questions about anything we've covered in this video or anything else, please reach out to your technical project manager. That's why we're here.